Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of our viewers don't subscribe? If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and hit that like button. We're targeting 500 likes on this one. Let's dive into today's tale. If someone had told me a year ago that my entire life would be flipped upside down by the person I trusted most, I would have laughed in their face. I always believed that loyalty was something you could feel in your bones, something unshakable when you had built a life together. I was wrong. My name is Daniel, and this is the story of how I lost everything, and how I made sure I took something back. I met Lauren in the most ordinary way. We were both working at the same marketing firm, just two young professionals grinding it out, trying to make a name for ourselves. She was beautiful in a way that didn't demand attention, but commanded it anyway. Soft-spoken, sharp-witted, and disarmingly kind. I thought I hit the jackpot. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. She said yes with tears in her eyes, and I remember thinking that no moment in my life could ever top that feeling. Our marriage was, at least for the first few years, what everyone dreams of. We bought a modest home just outside the city, got a dog, took weekend trips when we could afford them, and built what felt like a real partnership. Sure, there were rough patches. What marriage doesn't have those? But nothing that ever made me question her loyalty or mine. It was little things at first. Things you could explain away if you loved someone enough. She started working late more often. I'd get texts at odd hours saying she had to stay for a last-minute meeting or cover for someone else. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I wasn't naive, just trusting. A word that feels almost like an insult now. The first real crack showed up on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to meet some friends for a barbecue, but Lauren was dragging her feet. She kept glancing at her phone, barely hiding her frustration. When I asked her if everything was okay, she forced a smile and said she was just tired. We drove separately because she said she had errands to run afterward. Halfway through the party, I realized I hadn't seen her in over an hour. I walked around the backyard, scanning the crowd, but she was nowhere. Finally, I spotted her off to the side, talking on her phone, her back turned to me. She looked tense, kept glancing over her shoulder. When she came back, she acted like nothing had happened. I wanted to brush it off, but that sinking feeling in my gut wouldn't leave me alone. A few weeks later, I caught her lying. Small, but undeniable. She said she was meeting her friend Jenna for drinks, but when I bumped into Jenna's husband 2 days later. He mentioned they had been out of town that entire weekend. I asked Lauren about it, giving her every opportunity to tell me the truth. She spun some half-hearted story about a last-minute change, about meeting another friend instead, but she stumbled over the details. I wanted so badly to believe her that I convinced myself I must have misunderstood. The final straw came in the form of an accident. A literal accident. She left her laptop open on the kitchen counter one morning when she went to shower. I didn't go looking for anything. I wasn't that guy. But when a message popped up on the screen, curiosity got the better of me. It was from a man named Kyle, someone I didn't recognize. The message was simple. It said, "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." My hands went cold. My ears started ringing. It felt like the floor beneath me cracked open. I sat there for a minute, just staring at the screen, hoping it would vanish like a bad dream. It didn't. I clicked into the message thread, and what I found made my heart drop into my stomach. Flirty messages, plans to meet up, inside jokes I didn't understand, references to times they had clearly been together, times she had told me she was working late or out with friends. I didn't say anything that morning. I didn't storm upstairs and confront her. Instead, I closed the laptop quietly, sat back, and let the weight of it crush me. It was almost like I needed to feel the full force of it before I could move. When she came downstairs, wrapped in a towel, humming to herself, it took every ounce of strength I had not to let my face betray me. That day changed everything. I became a ghost in my own house, pretending everything was fine while gathering every piece of evidence I could find. I wasn't just going to confront her. I wanted the full picture. I wanted to know how deep it went, how long I had been living a lie. I started small, checked her phone when she was in the shower, watched her patterns, noted every time she had a meeting that ran suspiciously late. I even followed her once, feeling like some desperate fool in a movie. I watched her park in front of a nondescript apartment complex, watched her glance around nervously before disappearing inside. She didn't come back out for 2 hours. It was Kyle's place. I knew because I found a piece of mail addressed to him later, crumpled in the back seat of her car. I still hadn't confronted her. I know that sounds strange, weak even, but I needed more. I needed to be sure that when I went to war, I had every weapon ready. Revenge wasn't the first thing on my mind. Survival was. I needed to protect myself, my finances, my dignity. Lauren and I shared everything, bank accounts, investments. Even the house was in both our names. I wasn't about to lose half my life to someone who had already stolen so much from me. I played the perfect husband. I cooked dinner, rubbed her feet when she complained about long days, listened patiently to her meaningless stories about work. And all the while, I kept digging. I found out Kyle wasn't some random fling. They had been seeing each other for almost a year. A full year of my life wasted on a lie. He wasn't better than me. He wasn't richer or smarter or kinder. In fact, from what I gathered, he was a deadbeat. Some guy she had met at a bar and kept around because he made her feel young and reckless. Meanwhile, I was at home paying the bills, planning for a future she had no intention of sharing with me. One night, about a month after I first saw the messages, Lauren sat across from me at dinner, smiling and chatting like nothing was wrong. I nodded and smiled back, and inside, something snapped. I decided right then that I wouldn't just leave. I wouldn't just walk away and let her think she had gotten away with it. No, I was going to make sure that when I was done, she would be the one left picking up the pieces. The first step was the money. Quietly, carefully, I opened a separate bank account. I moved small amounts at a time, just enough that she wouldn't notice. Bonuses from work, freelance checks, anything that wasn't a direct deposit she knew about, I siphoned away. I also started documenting everything. Screenshots, emails, text threads. I even bought a small recorder and kept it running whenever we had conversations about our marriage or finances. I knew that if this went to court, I'd need everything I could get. The second step was more painful. I had to emotionally distance myself. I stopped sleeping in the same bed. I blamed it on insomnia, stress from work. She accepted the excuse easily enough. She was too busy sneaking off to see Kyle to notice the coldness setting in. Sometimes I would catch her looking at me with a strange expression, like she was wondering where the man she married had gone. I almost laughed at the irony. Where had he gone? He had been murdered by her betrayal. I started working out more too, something I hadn't had time for in years. Partly because I needed an outlet for the anger that was eating me alive, and partly because I knew that when this was all over, I wanted to look and feel like the man she thought she could throw away. It all came to a head one evening when she slipped up. Badly. She was supposed to be at a company retreat for the weekend. I knew because she had spent weeks talking about how she couldn't get out of it. I even helped her pack. But something about the way she rushed out the door didn't sit right with me. So I waited a few hours, then called her hotel. They had no reservation under her name. None at all. I didn't even get mad, I just smiled. It was almost too easy. I texted her pretending like everything was normal, wishing her a good night, telling her to have fun with her coworkers. She responded with a fake photo of a hotel room. A blurry shot she must have pulled from the internet because I reverse image searched it and found it immediately. She was lying to my face, and she didn't even care enough to be good at it anymore. That night, I drove to Kyle's apartment. I didn't have to wait long. Around 11, Lauren pulled into the lot, laughing about something I couldn't hear, and disappeared inside with him. I didn't follow. I didn't knock on the door. I just took a photo of her car parked there, time-stamped it, and went home. The final piece was in place. All that was left was the final move. And when I made it, she would never see it coming. The next morning, Lauren returned home like nothing had happened. She dropped her suitcase by the door, kicked off her shoes, and walked into the kitchen where I was pretending to read the newspaper. She kissed me on the cheek, smelled like someone else's cologne, and started rambling about her retreat, all the fake seminars, the fake networking events. I nodded, smiled, and played my part. Inside, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a cold, methodical clarity. I wasn't Daniel the husband anymore. I was Daniel, the architect, and I was building the perfect downfall. The next few weeks were a masterclass in patience. I treated her like royalty, planned little date nights, left sweet notes around the house, cooked her favorite meals. I wanted her so comfortable, so convinced that I was still the fool she thought she married, that when it all collapsed, she wouldn't even know which way was up. Meanwhile, I set the real plan in motion. First, I met with a divorce attorney, a shark. Someone who looked at me across a sleek glass desk and after hearing my story and seeing my evidence, smiled like he could already smell blood in the water. He advised me exactly how to move forward, quietly, methodically, so that when I filed, Lauren would be left with nothing but the clothes on her back. I learned things I never knew about marriage law. Things like how courts frown upon infidelity when it comes to division of assets. Things like how evidence, real, time-stamped, undeniable evidence, could make the difference between losing half my world and keeping everything I had worked so hard to build. Second, I started isolating assets, selling small personal things under the guise of decluttering. Old guitars, collectibles, jewelry. Things that were technically marital property but were easy enough to liquidate without raising suspicion. Every penny went into my private account. Third, I played the social game. Lauren didn't realize that the friends we had, the couples we spent weekends with, the ones she thought adored her, were actually far more loyal to me than to her. Slowly, carefully, I planted seeds. Little comments about how distant she'd been lately, how I hoped everything was okay between us, never accusing, never bitter. Just enough to make them notice her behavior, question her excuses, pull back their affection without me ever having to say the word affair. Lauren thought she was living in a fortress of lies. She didn't realize the walls were already crumbling. Then came the final step before the big reveal. Kyle. I needed him to be a part of this too, whether he realized it or not. I wasn't going to confront him or threaten him. No, that was sloppy. Instead, I hired a private investigator to dig into his life. And what I found was almost laughable. Kyle was a mess. No steady job, no real savings, a string of failed relationships behind him. He was exactly the kind of man who would latch onto a married woman, someone to lean on, someone to bankroll his lazy existence. He wasn't just using Lauren for affection, he was using her for stability. And she was too blinded by whatever fantasy she had built in her head to see it. It gave me the final piece of leverage I needed. The night before everything was set to unfold, I sat in our living room sipping a glass of whiskey, while Lauren texted away on her phone across from me, probably making plans with him. She didn't notice the slight smile on my face. She didn't notice anything. She had no idea that tomorrow morning would be the last normal day she would ever have with me. I woke up early, made her breakfast, pancakes, her favorite, and kissed her goodbye like any other day. She left for work humming a song under her breath. I watched her car disappear down the street, then picked up my phone. First, the papers. Everything was ready. Filed. Served to her office by noon. Second, the email. I sent her every photo, every message, every piece of evidence I had collected over the past months. No explanation, no commentary. Just the cold, brutal truth. Third, Kyle. I discovered he was cheating on her too with a waitress at some dingy bar across town. I sent her those pictures as well. When the storm hit, it hit fast. By 12:30 p.m., my phone was blowing up. Lauren's calls, Lauren's texts, voicemails that started pleading, then sobbing, then raging. I didn't answer a single one. I took the dog and left the house, driving to a hotel where I had already booked a room. I didn't want to be anywhere near her when she realized the locks would be changed by the time she got home. That was legal too, by the way. My attorney had made sure of it, citing her infidelity and protecting myself from any volatile behavior. Through friends, I heard she caused a scene at her office when she got served. Screaming, crying, collapsing in the hallway. People stared. Whispers started. Her pristine reputation, the careful image she had spent years cultivating, shattered in one afternoon. Later that night, I watched through the security camera app on my phone as she tried to open the front door, failed, pounded on it until her hands hurt, then slumped down on the porch, sobbing. I didn't even feel satisfaction. Not yet. It was too early for that. In the days that followed, the full weight of her new reality set in. The divorce was brutal for her. I had the evidence. I had the narrative. I had the support of our friends, who had quietly backed away from her one by one. She couldn't claim alimony because she had committed adultery. She couldn't touch my private accounts because they were funded with income earned after the separation. She tried to fight, of course, clawed and scratched through her lawyer, but it was useless. She lost the house, lost the car, lost the dog, who legally belonged to me because I had been the one to adopt him. Kyle didn't stick around. Once Lauren's financial support dried up, so did his affection. From what I heard, he ghosted her completely. She tried reaching out to the waitress he had been seeing on the side, only to get humiliated all over again. Within 3 months, she was living in a cramped apartment across town, working a miserable job just to stay afloat. She reached out once, just once, sending me a long, rambling email about how sorry she was, how she had made a terrible mistake, how she missed me and the life we had built. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, I didn't. I just didn't care anymore. She was a chapter I had already finished reading, one I didn't intend to revisit. Instead, I rebuilt my life. I sold the old house, bought a new place closer to work, traveled more, spent time with friends who had stood by me through the worst. I focused on becoming someone even I could be proud of, someone who didn't let betrayal define him, but used it as fuel to create something better. Sometimes, when I'm out walking the dog, I'll see couples holding hands, laughing together, and for a brief moment, I wonder if they really know each other. If they've seen the darkness in one another's hearts and chosen to love anyway, or if they're living in the blissful ignorance I once called home. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I'm free. And Lauren? She's just a ghost, a whisper of a life that could have been, a reminder that trust once shattered can never be rebuilt, only replaced with something stronger. I used to think revenge would taste sweet, but it doesn't. It tastes like survival, like peace. And that's more satisfying than anything I could have imagined in months past than a year. Lauren faded from my life like a bad dream you barely remember after waking up. I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances. How she tried dating again. How it never seemed to work out. How she struggled to trust anyone. Always looking over her shoulder, expecting betrayal. Maybe she saw herself in every new person she met. Maybe that was the real punishment, not losing the house, the money, or even me, but losing the version of herself she thought was untouchable. As for me, life was simpler, but better. I found a rhythm in the quiet moments. Early morning coffee, walking the dog through empty streets, a good book at night. I wasn't chasing revenge anymore, I wasn't chasing anything. I had found what I needed. Peace. Sometimes people ask me if I would ever forgive her. I tell them forgiveness isn't about letting someone else off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of their betrayal. And that's exactly what I did. I forgave her, silently, privately, without fanfare, and then I let her go. In the end, Lauren became nothing more than a lesson, a reminder that trust isn't something you gamble with. It's something you guard, protect, and give carefully. I'm a little older now, a little wiser, and a lot stronger. If you asked me whether I would change anything, knowing how painful it all was, I would say no. Because sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted to find the life you truly deserve. And that life, without her, is more beautiful than anything I could have imagined.